Bethesda is a company that has many big series and titles under its name, and for this list, I want to look at the best of the best Bethesda has to offer. And just to clarify, this isn't just games that Bethesda Game Studios have made, this covers games that Bethesda Studios has published. So this covers series like Dishonored, Fallout, Wolfenstein, Elder Scrolls, and Doom. I wish I could put a lot more games on this list, but I gotta pick a few. With all that being said, I will say that if a game isn't on here, it doesn't mean that I didn't like it. I can only just pick so many, and this of course is my opinion, so just keep that in mind as well. So let's kick off with number 9, Elder Scrolls 2, Daggerfall. I want to start this list off with a classic RPG from Bethesda's incredible lineup of action RPGs. While the first Elder Scrolls games are severely dated by today's standards, it's hard not to appreciate the series' roots and see where it all began. While Arena was heavily considered for this spot, I felt like Daggerfall kicked up just a notch from when Arena had started. The world in this game is so massive that the word massive isn't even large enough. Released in 1996, the game has a world that is so large it is the same size as the real-life Great Britain, so that's crazy impressive. With some solid quests and so much to see and explore, this game deserves that extra thumbs up from me. Number 8, Prey. Prey was a cool one for me, as I remember being super stoked for this game to come out, and when it did, I was blown away at how impressive it was with the branching storyline and the choose-your-own-adventure gameplay. Exploring the Talos 1 ship was a very nerve-wracking but enjoyable experience full of very difficult foes and lots of cool abilities. I love the environmental storytelling and the morality choices you have to make at points that are truly stressful. This wasn't my favorite Arcane game, but it was great to see the series get a revival, and I would love to see more games in the series. Number 7, The Evil Within. The Evil Within is a really important one for me because it was one of the first games that really got me into survival horror genre. While I really loved its sequel and it's one of my top 10 games of all time, I had to put this game on here for being one of my first survival horror experiences. It was truly a very scary game to play and the boss and enemy designs were so cool. It keeps bringing me back and I still really enjoy following Detective Sebastian Castellanos into the world of survival horror. Number 6, Elder Scrolls 5, Skyrim. You may be shocked to see this one this low, but that doesn't mean I didn't like it. The hundreds of hours I poured into Skyrim have been some of the most enjoyable RPG experiences I've had, and the world of Skyrim was so amazing to explore. Though several things bummed me out in comparison to previous Elder Scrolls game, the leveling and skill system was very different from previous titles, and I appreciated it. But it felt like you could have a character who was very good at everything, instead of a character who was really good at specific things and mediocre at other things. Though this game is available on pretty much every device imaginable, it makes it so accessible, but using my Fusaro Da on mudcrabs to see them go flying is still just as fun as it was the first time. Number 5, Doom 1993. It was tricky putting this game on this list because at the time of release, it wasn't technically published by Bethesda, but in 2019 they published the game for modern consoles, so I considered that good enough for me. But this classic should never be overlooked because of how influential it was on gaming as a whole. One of the first ever FPS titles that revolutionized gaming and is still a total blast to play. Running around the maze-like levels and blowing away demons is one of the most enjoyable gaming experiences that remains consistent almost 30 years later. And it's hard not to get sucked into the amazing soundtrack that still rocks harder than your mom at a Def Leppard concert. Number 4, Dishonored. Dishonored is a great game that I love to revisit over and over and over again. The replayability of this game is so fantastic and the variety that it presents is unreal. My first experience with the arcane style of choose-your-own-adventure gameplay was an experience that was hard to forget. Figuring out that I could play this game in literally whatever way I wanted was so great. And every time I play through it, it's a different experience than the last. Using the blink ability to speed past unaware guards is a total blast and never gets dull. While Dishonored 2 was a heavy contender with its more open and large levels, this first game is such a classic that it was hard not to give it a spot. Number 3, Wolfenstein Youngblood. Just kidding, Wolfenstein the New Colossus. To clarify, I did enjoy Youngblood, and I have a review of the game. You can go check out my thoughts on that. But let's chat about the New Colossus. While New Order was so close to taking this spot, it was hard not to put New Colossus. I felt like it was the perfect Wolfenstein experience. Fast, hectic, and not always serious Nazi killing action. It was such a solid game that I fell in love with from the start. It hits hard and never pulls back. I really enjoyed the very personal story of BJ Blazkowicz, and it was just a fun game to play. Seeing the unique characters interact with each other was very humorous at times, and it knew exactly what it was and never looked back. The adrenaline was rushing, and there was one moment in particular that shocks me to this day. Number 2, Fallout 3. If there was enough spaces on this list, I would have put every single Fallout game into here at some degree, but I forced myself to choose one, and the obvious choice was Fallout 3. My experience with this game was such a memorable moment in my life. It was such a fun game to play through, and I was sucked into this post-apocalyptic world, and it was so hard for me to leave. The story wasn't always the best, but the side quests offered some very difficult morality choices, and sometimes playing the good guy wasn't good enough, and you just had to sit back and watch the world burn. While I've given shoutouts to a few that should have made the list, here are ones that I truly deserve to spot on this list but just didn't quite make the mark for several reasons. Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I would have loved to put this game in place of Skyrim or even higher. More games though just kept coming to mind that kept pushing it down, and while I love the leveling system and the story of this game is far better, its graphics are a tad ugly and the combat is pretty stiff, just pushing it out of my list. Rage 2. This was a super underdog and I feel like it deserved more love. One of the first games to come out after the hate on Bethesda because of Fallout 76 party. This game was swept under the rug and it wasn't fair because it was actually pretty rad. Everything was so colorful and the combat was so fluid and the weapons you can use are crazy fun. Doom 2016. This was a tough one because I really loved this game and it was hard to find a reason not to put it on here, but I ran out of spots and my number one pick just couldn't be swayed. Doom brought life back to the series and I'm so glad because this was an epic game with an even more epic soundtrack. Fallout 4. This was a tricky one because I don't particularly love Fallout 4 more than 3, but I didn't hate this game. I spent well over 250 hours scouring the wasteland and it was a total blast, but the changes to the perk system and the limited dialogue choices really hit this game down a few notches. But my epic base that I built using all the junk I collected is just so epic. Okay, the moment you've all been waiting for. Number 1 is Doom Eternal. This was a no-brainer for me, and I had this game at number 1 from the start. I love Doom Eternal so much, and it has been so hard for me to put it down. Even after many playthroughs, this game still offers me a challenge, but it is so satisfying. The combat is really improved upon 2016 in pretty much every way. With so many new awesome mechanics and a combat that is just so smart, it was hard not to fall in love with it. The fast-paced action was so addicting, and I see myself revisiting Doom Eternal again and again. We did it! So, let me know, what did you think of my list? What did you agree with and what games would you have put and where? But remember, this is just my list and there is no right or wrong answers. But while you're down in the comments, let me know what other lists would you like to see me do. But if you liked what you saw and you want to hit like, subscribe, and the bell to get notified every time I post a new video, that would be awesome. And if you want to see more of me, I'm over on Twitch at twitch.tv/agameforyourthoughts. I'm streaming there all the time and I would love to see you there. Thanks again for watching and I'll catch you guys on the next episode of A Game for Your Thoughts. See ya!